Today, I'm here with one of my friends and a very special guest, Peter Bruschi. Thank you for coming on the show today. How's it going?
Thanks, Christian. We're doing good. Staying busy, flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been traveling a lot recently, which we'll get more into as we go on. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and also how you got involved with racing?
Sure. Well, I grew up, a lot of people don't know, I grew up on Long Island in New York. And my dad started me going to Riverhead Raceway, Saturday night short tracks. As a matter of fact, I have my first checkered flag here. My green screen's going to mess with it. But, some of my heroes signed it and, so it's pretty cool. Growing up, helping my dad and his buddies. And all I ever knew was short track racing until I went to college and I saw a bunch of guys driving sports cars around and I'm like, what's going on here? And they're like, oh, come to an autocross. And that started it all for me. I do 30 events a year for the last 4 years. I've been running a lot. On average, 1 in 10 days, my yellow Mustang is at a race event.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a bunch of your footage on YouTube and Facebook and everything. I think you do an absolutely great job with your content creating. We'll get more into content creating in a little bit, but why Ford? Why is Ford your go-to, if that makes any sense, your favorite manufacturer?
Sure. Well, I grew up around Fords. My grandfather, my dad's father, was a service manager at a Ford dealership. We still have the 1966 Ford Bronco that my dad's been riding around in since he was 10. And I've been riding in it since I was a week old. It was the shop truck and they beat around in it. So I guess it's just, I grew up around Fords. And when this new S550 Mustang came out, it just seemed like an all around the kind of car that I wanted. I'm an engineer at Detroit Speed and we do a lot of stuff with American cars. And I sat in the Mustang and I fell in love.
That's awesome, man. Now, your first autocross was in 2017.
That's correct.
And 5 years ago, September the 3rd, this year, you basically were in the SCCA Solo NAS. And for those that don't know, can you tell us what SCCA is?
Sure. SCCA is probably the longest standing sports car organization in the world, Sports Car Club of America. And it basically started as a dozen guys came back from World War II and they imported their British sports cars that they were ripping around in Europe. They loved driving the cars there. So they let them bring them back to the United States. And the guys were like, well, we want to just, hoon them around, just like you and me want to today. They were, the same thing back then. And they started hosting, they called them gymkhanas in parking lots where they would just set up cone courses and do tricks around them. And that eventually evolved into the Sports Car Club of America. We've got thousands of members. And anybody, the beauty of this is I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy who likes going fast and anybody can get involved with this club. There's autocrosses held all over the country. You got to go to, there's a website called motorsportreg.com, motorsport, REG, short for registration. And you put in your zip code and it finds you all the events that are going on all over. Wow. So it's real easy. This is my daily driven Mustang and it does 30 events a year. It's really, I got to do a little extra maintenance to it and, make sure it's in good shape, but you don't have to run it. The beauty of it is it's as much or as little as you want to get out of it. So your local region, they host maybe 10 events a year. If you want to go to 1 or 2 to try it out, it's a really supportive group. All the regions, they have novice classes. They have instructors for free. We'll get in the car with you and help you out, navigate your first event and join the ranks, get you involved. And that's how I started 5 years ago. I had a little Subaru. I didn't even have my own helmet. I had to borrow a helmet, but they had free loaners, and my friends just finally got me to go do it. And it was a night event in the rain in a mall parking lot in upstate New York. So it's dark, it's wet, and I'm hooning my Subaru, having the time of my life. And that started it all for me. So that's
Wow.
kind of the beauty of it. I knew nothing. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people, you just got to leave your ego at home. You're going to suck. Your first time performance driving, everybody sucks. Nobody comes out knowing what to do. So just get at it. Go find your local region. The events are usually less than $50 for the day. Just go check it out. Go support your local motorsports. It's a lot of fun. It's changed my life.
That's really awesome, man. And I've been, of course, I've following you from Facebook and hearing stories you've told me. I mean, you've been getting really involved in a lot of races, and you recently ran in Nebraska. What was the track called? You were there from like the 6th to the 9th. And if I'm correct, didn't you finish like 25th or something like that?
25th in my class. So there were 1,102 drivers that go to the SCCA Solo Nats.
Wow.
So like we talked about, there's local SCCA clubs all over the country. Well, they get together and they run these, they call them national tours.
Okay.
And there's a few different kinds of tours. They run different styles of events. And they travel all over the country. So kind of the beauty of SCCA is that I get guys who I went to college with that got me started in this. They travel down south and they do the Bristol tour. They do the Charlotte tour when it comes to Bristol Motor Speedway, when it comes to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then I've gone up to do their tour that they host up in the Finger Lakes in New York at an old airstrip. So the kind of the culmination of all of these tours is that there's a point system, and then there's basically the Super Bowl is the Solo National Championships. The biggest one, a typical tour is like 300 drivers. The Solo Nats the cap is 1,300, so 1,000 more than what's at a typical tour. But they had 1,102 this year. And basically that's it. We're going to figure out who's the best of the best in each class. So I ran in the biggest class, D Street, in the yellow Mustang, and I came in 25th out of 60 cars in the class, which is pretty respectable, considering this car has the worst power to weight ratio in the class, and it's a street class. So I can't modify the car a lot. I can't cut weight out. I have to keep it on stock suspension. I can't tune the engine. I can do minor things like shocks and sway bars, but the street classes keep getting faster. So there's a Honda Civic Type R. That's the car to have now, that has 30 more wheel horsepower and it weighs 400 pounds less. So I can't do anything in the rules to overcome it. So for 25 out of 60, I'm calling it the best of the rest. I was the first car that wasn't a Type R, or one of the newer, the Toyota, the Subaru, the BRZ, the second gen of that. Those cars are wicked too. They added the power. So I felt pretty good, and I still crack. They have a system, kind of like a handicap system, to compare cars across different classes, different power, weight, horsepower, performance levels. So I did manage to crack the top third of the packs, the theoretical. It simulates if everybody drives the same car. So I was in the 300s out of 1,102. So it was cool to see that. And that's about how I do locally too. So as it was interesting how you scale it up to see on a national level with the toughest competition in the world, how things shake out.
Definitely, and that's really impressive. And now I wonder, like, is there a starting lineup, like to determine a starting lineup? Do y'all have like qualifying? And I'm not really too familiar with all this,
Sure.
so fill me in. Do y'all like set a starting lineup via times, or like y'all have like a bracket system? So kind of explain that to us if you can.
Sure. So basically, the venue is the Lincoln Air Park, which also doubles as a military base.
Oh,
So it was really cool being around there. They had some awesome planes that they flew over, and they actually let us go up into one of the planes, a surveillance plane. And basically they set up two courses at nationals. Usually at most autocross tours, there's just one. But because of the volume of the cars, they set up two, and they run two separate competitions one day, and then you switch courses the second day, and you run so they had an East course and a West course. And the courses range from 3/4 of a mile to a mile long on a nationals course. Now at a locals course, some sites, it's hard to secure sites. So you might only get like a course that ends up being a half a mile, a quarter mile. But basically they give you, at a local, you show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then you take 3 hours, and they let you walk the course. So you get to learn it and figure out, where you need to go. And then you just run it. There's no qualifying. Everybody's classed just by rules. You show up and they look at your car in tech inspection, and they look for the basic things. But it's not so much like NASCAR, that NASCAR does an in-depth inspection. It's kind of self-policed. So there actually were protests at nationals this year. After everybody does their runs in the class for the day, everybody has to have their hoods and trunks open, and your competitors are free to come over and look for every little minute detail on your car that'll put you out. Wow. Yeah, there was a big debate over one of the classic American muscle class. The rules are kind of open-ended, and there's a very vague rule about having a finished appearing car. And there was a Corvette that didn't have a back bumper. But the way that he did that, it kind of looked cool. Like it was styled in such a way. But somebody didn't like it. And I think they just wanted to get in the trophy spot to knock the guy out. So there was kind of a controversy about that.
So sorry to interrupt. So basically, drivers could go to other drivers' cars and, be like, hey, that doesn't look right, and go to official. So
yeah, absolutely.
Did that cause any like tempers or any heated moments?
It can. Sometimes I think what annoyed the people in this particular debate was there was no discussion between the drivers. They just filed a protest to the officials, and then so it was kind of my friend actually had to protest over not a car, but he had to protest a cone call. There was a mistake on his runs. The course workers identified cones that weren't his fault. So that was kind of heated. He had to prove with GoPro, and luckily he had GoPros around his car, and he was able to show that he didn't hit those cones.
That's very interesting.
It gets intense when you're talking. So the big kind of bragging rights to all of it is winning a jacket. They give you an SCCA jacket with your name on it. there's and it says champion on the back. There's no money involved in this. Wow. It's club motorsports. And people really want those jackets, those championships, those bragging rights. But that's kind of the beauty of the sport too, in that the street classes, the rules, like I probably have maybe $2,000 in modifications to my car to make it street class, and I am built like that's it. That is all I can do. So there's a class kind of for everybody to fit into. So you don't need a whole lot of money. You don't need a race car to do this, a dedicated race car. This car is literally my daily driver. And I beat on it, but I've taken care of it. And that's how it's been able to, a lot of preventative maintenance. And that's how it's been able to do over 150 events in 4 years.
Wow. That's really cool, dude. I actually didn't know. See, I didn't know like what the winners received for some of the events that you run in. I didn't know if like any got money or anything like that, but Man, so it's basically sort of like everyone's in it because it's fun, doing what you love. And that's the right thing. Even though of course of winning awards and all that is but so I was really surprised by to hear that there was that many. I haven't heard of like races other than in Europe where there's like 1,000 or so cars in it. So that kind of surprised me. But that the tracks other than Nebraska that you've raced at, and which one's probably your favorite track?
Sure. Yeah, I've done the national tour at several venues. Charlotte, they actually run at ZMAX Dragway. They race in the there's a giant open lot there where the pavement, that's actually our home site. And the pavement is great. But my favorite has got to be Bristol Motor Speedway. You know how it's that Coliseum kind of up on the hilltop. We don't actually race inside the speedway. We race on the hillside outside. And so there's about 30 foot of elevation change. Yep. There's not a lot of, most autocross sites are flat. So it's really challenging to navigate that. And then I guess kind of like what's pictured behind me, UMI Motorsports Park, they actually host the biggest autocross for money. It's King of the Mountain. UMI's King of the Mountain.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so that's a $25,000 to win autocross, which again, it's peanuts compared to what you have to invest into your car to win it. But it's big bragging rights. It's the biggest event in the sport. They had something like 2,000 spectators, so it's still kind of grassroots. But considering your local autocross doesn't get hardly any spectators, this is the UMI's King of the Mountain. It's a different direction than SCCA. It's not SCCA sanctioned. There's kind of other groups in the autocross and the pro touring, just like motorsport for the masses. What we do, there's a lot of overlap between the drivers. Hey man, racers race. If there's something going on nearby, they want to get into it. They want to participate in it. So it's kind of what's available to you locally. But I did get a chance to try UMI's site this year at Autocross Week, where I did manage to crack the top 15 of 50 cars. So nice. 14th place, I'll take it. There were cars ahead of me that had probably double what my car is worth in just modifications. And, so to be up there with some of those fast guys in a nearly stock Mustang, we always say the most important part of the car is the nut holding the steering wheel. So skill does play a huge factor in success in these sports. And I've only gotten this far because of my time with Motorsport for the Masses, that I've been able to practice so much and hone my craft.
That's awesome, man. And I was going to ask you this too. So what some of the events you compete in and stuff, is it endurance or based off time? Because I think I saw something that one time you posted that you did an endurance race. Is that correct?
Yeah. Autocross is just, you basically get a certain amount of runs in a day. Okay. And the runs typically range from 30 to 60 seconds, maybe a little more. The Nationals course, the East course, threw everybody for a loop because it was, and for my car, it was an 80-second course. So you think about it, I'm used to practicing on 60-second courses. Yeah. And sure enough, I got 2/3 of the way through that course at Nats, and I'm like, oh my God, when is it going to end? Because my body, I'm conditioned. It's physical endurance to be able to place a car at its limits of traction and have that mental focus to be able to drive that hard for a minute at a time. So the people who weren't so fortunate, they don't have those big Nationals lots in their backyard. They only get these 20, 30-second courses. They were really at a disadvantage when it came to Nationals. So that's the autocross side of it. But I also do, when I get a chance, I get a seat in an endurance car. So I raced with a series called Champ Car, and they do a number of endurance races a year, ranging from 8 hours to 24 hours is the longest that they do. So we did the 24 hours at VIR, Virginia International Raceway.
Yeah, I saw that one.
And the difference between an autocross and driving on a road course, it's the size and the scale of things, but it's also you need to approach things a little bit differently. You know, if you to relate it to NASCAR, they're for qualifying, they're putting all the grill tape on, they're running flat out as hard as they can for that qualifying lap, where they'll have a different setup during the race. They might not, run the car on the ragged edge of nearly wrecking, like they would to try to get a fast qualifying lap. Yeah. So it's kind of in the same vein of autocross is kind of like you'd want to run a qualifying lap. It's like, give it all you got, because you only get a couple of tries. Whereas in a longer track or an endurance race, you got to save the car to finish first. You must first finish. So that's kind of the difference. I dabble. I'll get into anything that somebody throws me the keys to. So that's kind of how a lot of us are.
Wow. So, man, you really know your stuff too. And I mean, it's great to see that you're getting involved with all sorts of different ways of racing. Now, I actually met you through Motorsports for the Masses. It was, I think it was 2021. The end of that year was the first Rockingham event I attended. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know much of what was going on. I met Rob through that, and then I met you. And then earlier this year, of course, Rockingham had more events. I got to know you more. I got to know everyone involved with Motorsports for the Masses more. So, I mean, I've had a blast coming to the Motorsports for the Masses events. And, I was at first, I don't really know the status of Motorsports for the Masses. I do know that, like, of course, there's an event coming October the 7th through 9th, which we'll get into. But whenever I saw the announcement that Rob made early on in the year, I was just, I was very sad for everyone. I was just like, man, I don't know what's going to happen and what's going to be going on. So could you talk to me about like how you got involved with Motorsports for the Masses, what it stands for, and maybe like what went on this year with the group?
Sure. So Motorsport for the Masses is a private company owned by Rob Bowling. Mm-hmm. And that's what really sets us apart from a club sport, like a Sports Car Club of America or a NASA, not the spaceships, the National Auto Sport Association. Those are clubs, and they're not for profit. They're not trying to make money. They're paid for by the members of the clubs. And there's private organizations like Rob's. He sought out. He kind of what keeps a lot of people from interest in autocross. Sometimes it'll be that you don't get to drive a lot in a day. So at a typical local event, I only get 4 runs at ZMAX on a nationals level course. So I spend my whole Saturday for 4 minutes of driving, which it takes, it's kind of an acquired taste of, wow, I wasted my whole Saturday to go drive for 4 minutes. And it's like, you kind of can't go into it with that attitude. Yeah. You're with your friends, you're having fun, and the competition it's good competition. And that's part of the sport too, is that you don't get to know the course intimately. You got to figure it out as quick as you can, because every run is precious. There's guys at Lincoln who their day was over on day one. You cannot win a national tour in one day. They coned away their runs, or they DNF'd, or, and then it's over. You're just piecing it together. So the urgency of getting off the line and getting it done is with autocross, where track days, time trials, they'll give you 10, 20-minute sessions. but
Definitely.
it's at higher speeds, it's at higher risks. When I first got my Mustang, I had no interest. Well, of course I want to go fast. Of course I want to go on a racetrack. I did my first track day and I'm just like, holy cow, these walls are so close. They come at you so fast. I cannot afford to wreck my daily driver at one of these events. Now they do sell track insurance, but that's another $200 worth of expense to your weekend.
Mhm.
On top of, a $300-400 entry fee to insure your car. So you're looking at $1,000 weekend to go to a track versus you spend $50 at your local autocross. It's a lot cheaper. So there's a lot of people out there that do autocross exclusively because it's what they can afford in, not just money, but their appetite for risk. So Rob Bowling saw a huge gap between your $50 4 minutes at autocross and your $400 4 hours at a track day. So
Yeah.
he attempted to create a format that allowed people to get closer to the track day level of experience of driving time without all the added risk of the track. So similar to an autocross, the worst you can do, I mean, yeah, there's going to be barriers and stuff way far off the courses, but the vast majority of autocross damage is cones. And really a lot of it you buff it out. It literally comes out. It's just a little scuff in your paint. You buff it out, it's fine. Whereas a track day, you go to Charlotte Motor Speedway, SCCA track nights, and there's 3 cars that go home on a flatbed, and that sucks. So that's kind of where Rob wanted to stand, create a series that gave guys like me the chance to really, you at autocross, you can't learn car control at an autocross at a reasonable pace, like just doing it for 4 minutes in a day. So being able to go out to a Motorsport for the Masses event and get 40 minutes, 10 times the seat time in a day, you could see why a guy like me got so fast so quickly, because I was able to practice. And after my first event, I'm like, dang, Rob, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this off the ground. This is huge. This has huge potential for people like me who struggle to, they want to learn the car control skills, weren't quite getting it just by going to autocross. I had to work my tail off. I was going to autocrosses within like a 6-hour radius. I was like investing my time just to get some time to drive. Whereas this Motorsport for the Masses now got me where I wanted to be, and then some too, because it's not just the driving, it's the community that we've created, putting these events on, all the people that we've met. It's been so much fun. So that we've done over 30 events in the last 3 years, I think. And we were hoping it would take off. And it's been really challenging with the world conditions, with COVID, with whatever this economy is, with rising fuel, parts shortages, tire shortages. And there's just not as many people as we had hoped wanting to jump into this. And it just ultimately, Rob can't afford to, subsidize everybody's hobbies. He's got to make money. He had an idea and he put it out there as he wants to make money at it. And it's at least got to pay for itself. He knows he's not going to get rich on this, just like I know as an SCCA autocrosser, I'm not going to make much money at it, if any. We're doing it because we love it, but he has this vision for helping people learn this motorsport, bringing people together. And, it's just been tough. He's got to pay his bills. So we came to a point where we couldn't continue. The money was just gone, couldn't afford to re-up the event insurance and cover it ourselves. So we took a break. We were looking back at, what did we do? We scaled up a little quickly. We kind of just learned a lot of things. We did a lot of good things from it. But there were also some other things that we could stand to improve on. So we've been, even though it's been quiet on the event side, we get together, we talk about it, we work on things because we love it. We just cannot wait to get back out and do events again. So we have been working on it behind the scenes, figuring out the best way to attack it, the best way to make it cost effective for us. Because we tried so hard for growth, getting as far as we could. But we got to make it sustainable. So we weren't planning any other events this year, but fortunately, we got contacted by the North Carolina E30 Club, NC E30, and they are the biggest E30 club in the country. They actually hold the world record for the largest gathering of BMW E30s. Wow. Yeah, so it's cool. They've been doing this event for 14 years, but it's rode on the coattails of something else. It's always, they've done it at a NASA track day at VIR. They've done it at Ace Speedway in North Carolina. They've gone to some motorsport activity that's already happening, and they have their big car show. It's just a bunch of BMWs showed up, and that's cool. So now this year they wanted to get to Rockingham Speedway, and who better to organize and run their track activities than the first group that went back to Rockingham after it had been closed so long. So Rob knows the track in and out. He's got a plan for him, and hopefully the event does well and makes some money, makes Rob a little bit of a safety net, hopefully, to start off next season, which we are planning a next season, and build us some connections and contacts too. This show's been happening 14 years, and a lot of people know about it. And that's another one of the struggles that we had for motorsport for the masses. We could only do so much in promoting and getting it out there. But also there's a lot of well-established names that people would rather, especially as costs rise, they're going to be more likely to support what they know than go try something else out, especially if they're strapped for cash and to travel, and they're just going to do what's most convenient for them.
Definitely. And from going to the Motorsports for Masses events, I've definitely made connections and friends. And I've always had a blast coming to the Rockingham events and being able to drive my own car around the track too. I was like, y'all gave me an opportunity. I'm like, yeah, man, I want to go out there too. So I got to do that. And of course, you're my driving instructor on Little Rock. And for those that don't know this, I'm sure y'all have seen the in-car footage of that. Peter was holding the camera while I was going around, basically telling me about the course. But I'm really excited for, what's going on October 7th through the 9th. I don't know. I probably won't be able to go to Friday and Saturday, but I'll try to make it on Sunday that day. But cool. I'm hoping that it goes great. And, I'm very excited to hear that news. And, of course, the Motorsports for the Masses events have been well organized. Every single time I've came, it's gotten better and better, more organized, more basically, here's what we're going to do. We have a set plan. And then, of course, with this, the High Pursuit Chase Challenge from earlier on in the year, that was an insane day. Of course, it rained, but it was also really fun. There's the bracket challenge and everything. So that was a blast. Also, if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. What has been your favorite part of helping out with Motorsports for the Masses?
Gosh, I thought I would only do it because of the seat time, that I would get to drive my car as much as humanly possible. But I find now these days that I don't even care if I get 1 10-minute session. It's seeing all the other people get something out of this, and everybody gets something different from it. But just enabling people to find motorsports as safely and affordably as possible, and that's what we're out to do.
Definitely. And I've seen people come to the events, and and with more track time, they got better and better and better. And another thing that I thought was interesting too, like whenever I saw y'all out at Little Rock, like at first I was like, well, they're going around the corners pretty fast, and it doesn't look too fast. But then when I got behind the wheel with I wasn't behind the wheel, but I did a ride along. I can't, for some reason I don't remember his name at the moment, but I'll put it up on the screen if possible. He took me around in his BMW, which there was a lot of BMWs that people.
Eric, that's Eric. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and he was flying. I'm just over here like, like this.
yeah,
And, of course, I was trying to record and doing that. It made me kind of like shook up afterwards. I was sore. I'm like, I don't
yeah.
see how these people do it that long. Many path into racing. Is there anyone that has given you a lot of crucial advice or even helped you behind the wheel?
Sure. The beauty of the grassroots side of things is, I mean, I could probably write a book, and list the people who've helped me along the way. My buddies in college who got me into the sport to start, all the local help. Everybody has been so transparent along the way because we want to see everybody get better. But I got to say, Rob Bowling has given me the tools to success. The biggest part of who I am, how I drive today, comes from Rob, in starting motorsport for the masses, and that's why I just want to push it along, and that's why I spend so much time with it. I am a success story of it. We've seen our other guys in the series. Daniel Dean doing well with the stock cars, Ryan Anderson drifting. Our guys just have been going all throughout the sport and having success with it. So Rob's got a great program, great ideas, and we're just going to push it along as hard as we can and hope that we can make it profitable and sustainable in the next year.
And he's also really fast behind the wheel too. I mean, he took me around in the Miata on the Roval of Rockingham, and there was a couple times he was going so fast in the corner. I'm like, you probably need to hit the brakes. He's like, no. And I thought we were going to go flying and flipping. I was kind of worried for a minute, but the Miata had me definitely strapped in, and that was crazy, a crazy ride. But so you mentioned like Ryan Anderson, and he has helped, of course, with the Motorsports for the Masses events, whether it be, again, people in places where they need to be. There's plenty of people involved in Motorsports for the Masses that I've become friends with. One of them's name is also Christian. But with all the cars, I'm sure you've driven different types of cars. Which car has probably been the toughest one you've ever driven or raced with?
The toughest car that I've ever driven. My friend Ryan Huffman he campaigns locally at Central Carolina SCCA, and he actually does the national tours. And he was actually at nationals in Lincoln last year. He was number 2 in the country in his class.
Wow.
The E-Prepared class. It's an Acura Integra. No, it's an Acura RSX. A little newer than the Integra. It's so it was his daily driver in high school, and we started at about the same time too in the grassroots racing. And I did a video about his car on my YouTube channel. And he, it's crazy how we started in the sport about the same time. We both had, we didn't know anything going into it about driving, but we've both gone down such different paths, yet we've both become pretty skilled drivers. I have kept my car reasonable to daily drive because it is really my only mode of transportation.
Yeah.
And kept it in a street class. And Ryan is like, well, let's get another daily and let's just start cutting things off of this Acura and building it. It's insane. The car is on 315, Hoosiers that are like that wide, crazy, with aero and no interior. Like, he technically has a license plate on it. It's like borderline street legal now. And the car is just wicked. It is like in every way the exact opposite of my street class car, in mods, but also the handling dynamic of it being front wheel drive, it having the stickiest tires out there. And he started letting me co-drive it with him at locals and national events. He wanted feedback of, like, some of the biggest changes that he's made from the car are because he's let people drive it who have way more experience than him. And they're like, why is it doing this? Why is the car bicycling, like literally on two wheels in some turns? Like, photographers would get it and you'd see it and it's like, it's on two wheels. Holy cow. And he's like, it's not supposed to do that. And no, man. I grew up going to the Saturday night short track on Riverhead. It's a 1/4 mile asphalt oval on Long Island. It's the last racetrack on Long Island.
Wow.
And they race every Saturday night in the summers. And my kind of upbringing around that is unique in that I've been a part of a figure 8 team since I could walk. So they run, it's not just like we're going to send school buses around there, once or twice a year. This is a regular series of these guys. They're like late model spec-ish cars. The rules are kind of open. You could run whatever body style you want. So you see some cool stuff. You see some like 55 Chevys and some like 30s style modified coupes, along with, your late model stuff. There was even an El Camino that was running for a while.
Wow.
But yeah, they race in an 8 shape and they try not to crash in the middle. It becomes the busiest intersection on Long Island at that X. And there were actually, our driver, who's a couple years older than me, Kenny Hyde Jr., he had not one, but 2 incidents at the X this year. The second one that ended the car's season, the car got wrecked pretty bad. And he was like in the running for a championship too. So that really sucked. But yeah, he's a 3rd generation driver. We worked for Kenny Sr., who my dad was friends with for many, many years. My dad was involved with figure 8 racing on Long Island, not as a driver, but, kind of a crew chief and a mechanic for 30 years in that scene. He did my dad did a couple of enduro races, but he's not he's not into G-forces. He's much better working on the car. Got down this rabbit hole of doing as much racing as I can. I came to Detroit Speed because I wanted to learn how to drive and get opportunities in those cars. And I saw that as a way forward in my career, helping, getting the shop support, getting sponsors support, because the money has to come from somewhere. And that's been the challenge for all of grassroots racers, is where does the money come from to keep progressing? So that's money. That's it. That's what's holding motorsport for the masses back. That's what's holding a lot of things back, is the simple economics. Racing is the most effective way to turn dollars into noise, but we love it and we're going to do it no matter in any way that we can for as long as we can.
Yeah. And as they say, once you get more involved with racing, it becomes like, it's in your blood. And unfortunately, of course, with all the stuff going on right now, tire shortages, fuel, all this stuff going on, it definitely, unfortunately, has, stopped races from happening and people from doing what they love. And hopefully, things can change. But one thing that I will say about you, one thing that always struck me about you, you're so positive. You're a very positive person. You're very excited and, you're very passionate about what you do. And I remember it was earlier on this year, whatever, I was really frustrated with how things were going, with how, me with my content creating, how I was struggling with being positive and finding, why am I doing this if people aren't enjoying it, sort of thing. And you basically, you took your time out of your day, you talked with me about it, and you basically, I don't know how else to say, but you just gave me positive vibes again, and you really encouraged me. So I do thank you for that. Now, as we're closing out the episode, you have a YouTube channel, you have Facebook, you have Instagram. Could you share with us and for the viewers at home where they could find you at and where they could see your content?
Sure. So on YouTube, Instagram, I am Pete Bruschi Racing. Yeah, Facebook, just I actually use my full name, Peter Bruschi. I go by either. Pete just kind of started sticking in college. But yeah, anybody wanting to get into this sport, send me a message on any of the networks and we'll be happy to help you find it in your area.
100%. And thank you again for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close the episode?
No, thank you, Christian. It was a blast to be on here, and always good chatting with you. Hopefully we can get together sometime at another event.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And thank you so much for y'all who've stayed to the end. Thank y'all, of course, for watching this video. Make sure to go follow Peter. His links to social medias will be in the description below as well. So make sure to do that. Thank y'all so much for watching. Like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single upload. Thank you again, Pete, for coming on. And we've reached the checkered flag of this episode. See y'all.
Support your local grassroots motorsports. Thank you.
Yeah.